Hello, and welcome back to Tips and Tricks with Eoin Part 6. So, the tip I've decided to go with today, I feel is very important when it comes to working with large lists. Well, not necessarily large lists, but lists in Excel. And it's also a very common question I get asked when I'm training in Excel or working with Excel. And that is, well, what is the best way of removing blanks within a list? So blank rows or blank columns. Now, we're going to ignore individual cells because that's not much of a problem. But when you're working with lists like the one I have open in front of me here, it's not a particularly big list, but when you have kind of missing rows or missing columns like this, Excel really does have problems with this, especially when it comes to the likes of sorting that data or filtering that data or building pivot tables from it. So I'll give you a quick example of what I'm talking about here. So I want to be able to sort this entire list here. Now, in most cases, a lot of people would highlight everything, but with the latest versions of Excel, if there are no gaps in that data, so what I mean by gaps, I'm talking about entire rows missing or, you know, columns missing. It means, when you go to sort this, you don't actually have to highlight everything. But in this scenario, because of the gaps, I would. So you can see here, for example, if I don't highlight everything and I just click inside the data and I click on sort, if I just move this dialog box out of the way, you can see it's only going as far as that first gap. So I could have thousands of records sitting below that, but unfortunately Excel won't check that. It'll only go as far as that first blank row, and that's where it has its issues. So again, what I want to kind of show you here is if you're kind of looking at sorting that data, filtering it, or like I said, building pivot tables from it, you clearly want that data being recognized as one block, because what it means then is you don't have to highlight it first. So what I'd like to give you today is two easy ways of removing those blank rows or blank columns. Okay, so the first option I'm going to give you here is done using the filter option up the top here. But again, the problem, a bit like the sorting, is that if I click inside the first part of my data here and I click on filter, you can see if I click on the drop down, it's really only including this data here. It's obviously like the sort, it's excluding everything below that. So in order to switch on the filter, what I need to do here, so it applies to absolutely everything, is I'm going to use one of the tips that you would have learned in our previous videos, and that's the shortcut key for highlighting everything within a list like this. So that's Control Shift, and I'm going to use my arrow right, and then I'm just going to use my down arrow till I get to the bottom of my list. Should only take me a couple of seconds, which it does. There's the bottom of my list, just to make sure that it is. Okay. I'm going to go back up to the top and I'm going to click on the filter button so you can see it switches on handles. By doing this now, I know that it's including absolutely everything. So if I now go to one of these drop downs, it doesn't matter which one I go to. So I'm going to go to the one here in country, click on it. You can see it's got all my countries listed here, but right down the bottom it'll have the blanks. Now, imagine you have a huge list, for example, like this, of countries. The one thing you don't want to have to do is deselect everything and keep scrolling down to the end to get to the option that you want. So with the release of Excel 2010 and 2013, they've brought out this new search feature, fantastic feature in filtering. So you can see here, if I type in, for example, what I'm looking for here is blanks, so I can just start to type it out here. It finds blanks for me and I click OK. And now you can see it's basically filtered up my list to only show me the blanks. And these are indicated here in blue. Alright, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight from row 10 down here to row 737, right click, delete row, and you can see if I now clear my filter, you can see it's now gotten rid of any blanks within that list. Okay, so a very handy way of doing that, getting rid of those blank rows. Nice way of doing it using the filter option. The second option I'd like to show you here then is actually found under your Home tab in the Find and Select. It's called the Go To Special option. Okay, it's kind of hidden away here, but it's called the Go To Special. And if I go in here, I particularly like this dialog box because it allows you to kind of highlight certain things like comments, cells that have comments, or cells that have formulas in it. The one I'm looking for here is blanks. So if I select blanks here and click OK, you can now see it's gone right down my list and it's only highlighting those blank rows. Now, sometimes when you attempt to do something like that, what you'll find is it'll highlight the blank rows but also highlight the blank areas over here. So now you're going to find it very difficult to kind of delete just these. If that's the case, all you have to do is use the tip that I did previously. Highlight everything first. So I'm going to do my Control Shift arrow right, arrow down, all the way down to the bottom of the list. Okay, and again I'll go back into Find and Select, go to Special, select Blanks and click OK, and you can see I get the same result. But in a lot of cases you should be able to just simply go to click inside anywhere inside your data, Find and Select, go to Special, Blanks and click OK. Because once I've done that, I go to one of these blank rows, right click, and I'll left click, but right click and go to Delete. Shift all my cells up, please, all the blank rows up, click OK, and you can see it's now gotten rid of any blank rows within that data. So there you have it, 2 nice easy ways of deleting blank rows. The advantage of doing something like this before you sort, before you filter, before you build any pivot tables is my data, my list is now being recognized as one block. It means that when I go to filter or I go to build any of these, I don't have to highlight everything first because I know there are no missing rows or columns in there. So hope you enjoyed the tip. Again, don't forget to join us or like our page, our Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/iActOnline to get more of these videos.